This is a very unique book that I've been a part of. Very different in its approach and what it's trying to do. But the reality is that I think everybody has an innate desire to know God. And I think that's the way we're wired, the way we're created. I think that explains a lot of the searching and questioning that people have in life as they're trying to find who God is. The problem, I think, is that for a lot of people, they always stop short of really discovering who He is. Sometimes they come up with their own theory, they develop their own God, their own lifestyle. And sadly, some people even make it to church and they get a distorted view of who God is, even though they go to church every week. My experience has been that I've met many adults who've spent most of their Sundays in church, heard countless sermons, and yet when they begin to talk about God, you discover pretty quickly that they don't really know God very well. In fact, years ago when my dad wrote Experiencing God, probably the number one comment we got back from that was, I've believed in God all my life, but I've never experienced Him. I didn't know Him personally. And so this really is coming out of the desire to try to help people just really know, so who is God? And there's lots of critics of God, there's lots of atheists, people attacking God, distorting who He is, explaining it away. And then there's lots of well-meaning people that just don't really know Him that well, that are misrepresenting Him. And so there's all kinds of stuff out there that can be very confusing. And so this book is trying to just get right down to the heart and answer the really tough questions, which is, so is God loving? And with all that I've been through, all the suffering going on in the world, all the confusing things that are happening, how can I really know who God is and what He's like? And so this is a great book for people that just really want to dig in and think through carefully thoughts about God, who He is, and along the way hopefully get a lot of their questions answered that perhaps they've been wondering for years. Well, this is an interesting approach for us because, for one, I'm writing with my brother Mel and my son Mike, and so knowing those two people right away, you know it's going to be a different kind of project. But also, it's not just a book where we lay out truth and just chapter by chapter, here's the doctrine of God, here's the doctrine of His revelation, and so on. It's not just laying out truths that way. It's really designed around a discussion, a friendship. And there's some fictional elements to it, which makes it a very interesting read. For people that just don't naturally pick up a systematic theology, that would be kind of bored with that, this is a fun story about a college student who's gone through some hard times already in his life. Grown up in church, going there every Sunday, but his father died of cancer. He begged God to save his dad's life. God seemingly didn't hear or answer. Now his dad's dead. The young man goes off to college. He's bombarded by atheist professors, other world religions, people that are just dismantling all the things he learned in Sunday school as a child, until he finally just discards his faith and says it's all myths and fairy tales, and I was deceived, and now I'm finally educated. Along the way, though, there's a sense in his heart that I know that there's something missing still. There's questions I've never had adequately answered. And seemingly by chance, he is invited to go to a coffee shop where he meets a retired man that's working the coffee bar, and gets into conversation, and they develop a friendship. And this man's got his own issues. He was a hard-driving businessman, neglected his family for years, climbing the corporate ladder. He had a heart attack, a life-changing experience himself, and now he's suddenly looking at his life and saying, if I've been squandering this one life I have, and how does God's given me another lease on life, how do I spend it? And these two men become friends and begin a journey together, both of them on a journey, one that's been a little farther down the road than the other, but both in a journey to discover God. And a beautiful friendship develops between this retired man who's been given an opportunity to invest in the life of a young man who's searching. And so along the way, we're going to address many of the hardest questions that people ask about God and faith today. But at the same time, you're also going to watch an older generation, before it's too late, investing in a younger generation. And the whole beauty of that, I think, is going to make the book a very compelling and interesting reading. As you're learning about God and who He is, you're also going to just enjoy watching the way one generation can bless another if they choose to. I think certainly young adults will, and that's why we're excited about my son Mike participating in that. He's a young adult minister. He actually leads a coffee shop at his church every Thursday night, and that has been the entryway for many people that ultimately came into the church. They hadn't been going to the church services on Sundays, but they went to this safe coffee house sort of place and discovered there were answers there, and that led them into greater faith. So with Mike's experience in trying to just answer the questions young people are asking, certainly that'll be a great audience. But at the same time, we also hope that parents and older adults will be motivated as they read the book to ask the question, and are there young people around my life, maybe my own children, that are asking these same questions? And I've been unprepared to answer them before, but now I think I need to do some of my own study. And so part of the book will also, along with the storyline, there'll be some resources for people that want to mentor someone in a younger generation, and suggested books, answers that we'll give, thoughts to consider, so that whether you're trying to mentor your own children or you're teaching a Sunday school class in your church or leading a Bible study, just reaching out to a junior colleague at work somewhere, that the older generation can begin thinking about, and do I have anybody in my life that I'm helping along the journey as well? And hopefully that's going to just spark an interest in a lot of other people to say, you know, I've raised my kids, they're out of the house, but there's all kinds of young people in my church. I wonder if I could bless them somehow, if there's someone that needs company along their journey as they discover God themselves.
I come from the perspective as a pastor, so God's given me a shepherd's heart. One of the great burdens for my life is watching those who come to our church. Are they just coming to church, or are they coming to God? Are they growing in their relationship with God? And one of the greatest burdens is when I watch those families and children who are there, the kids are growing up, they're active, they're in the choirs, they're in Sunday school, vacation Bible school, all the activities that we have, and they get out of high school and they move away from home and they hit university. And statistics are telling us that maybe 70% or more are leaving their faith and leaving the church and somehow get derailed. And as a pastor, that burdens me. What are we doing to prepare them? Why are they not ready to answer those questions that the world is bringing at them? And the world in which we live today in America, boy, Christianity is under attack. The Bible is under attack. We're made fun of by atheist professors and those who claim to have a great education and multiple PhDs and are trying to destroy and dismantle everything that they've learned. So how do we prepare them? How do we help them? And how do we reclaim those who perhaps have wandered off but still know that there's a God and know they were created to have a relationship with God, but something is just not fitting? And how can they recapture that? How can they discover the God that they once knew but somehow they've lost? And so this book is uniquely designed to try to help those who have questions. We want questions. There's nothing wrong with asking the hard questions. The key is, are they getting some biblically foundational answers? Can they respond in a way that is true to God's word and is applicable to their life and honors God? And so that's what we're trying to do, is to help those who've been struggling to really get a hold of what is this faith I've had. Was it my parents? Is it real? Have I been deceived? What about all the other religions? What about the issues of life that just don't seem to make sense? How do I wrestle with that in the Christian context? And so this is one of those tools that we pray is going to be a great handle for them to get a hold of the real God, and not just something they have perceived him to be, but who he really is. Well, some of the things that, those foundational questions about even authority, like why the Bible? A lot of books out there, a lot of religious books. Why is the Bible authoritative over those other books? And somehow trying to wrestle with those questions about, there's a lot of religions. A lot of them claim to have many different paths to God. And why is the exclusivity of Christ so important? And why is the Bible our authority? Some of those questions, that we need to ask those questions because there are a lot of religions. We're created to be spiritual beings, and so everybody's trying to find their way to God. But why is the Bible that important? Why is Christ the only answer? And some of those questions we have to wrestle with them. We've got to give some answers that will help them to know how to respond when they're attacked with those very same questions when they're out in the world.
Now, we're not able to get Mike on camera. Obviously, he's He has more important things, his honeymoon right now.
Honeymoon kind of takes priority.
It does. And I just wanted to get your take on what Mike specifically contributes to this book in terms of the younger generation and how he can really appeal to them and their needs.
Mike adds so much because he's in the generation that we're trying to target. He's a part of that generation that's asking all kind of questions. And his calling, at least at this point in his life, is to work with young adults and to be a single adult minister, young adult minister. And he's one of those who's not afraid to ask the tough questions. In fact, I heard him once challenge our entire staff at the church, say the problem is that the church today has great answers for questions that young people are not asking. And we've got to figure out what's their issues, what are the questions they're asking, and not be afraid to tackle them. So he has been doing that. In fact, he's pursuing a PhD in apologetics and trying to ask those hard questions and give some good, strong biblical answers. So he's right in the middle of it. He's on the front lines. He's in this cafe that's having those who would never come to church, never step foot in a church, especially a First Baptist church. And they're coming to the cafe. It's a great atmosphere, and they're coming from all walks of life, and he's getting the questions head on, and he's not afraid to respond to them, and even to say, we need to wrestle with that one together. And so I think the perspectives of Richard, who's traveling and speaking and writing and a vast experience of relationships around the world, myself as a pastor of a church trying to guide a flock of people and to walk with God, and Mike, who's right in that age group where the tough questions are coming from. It's a good mix and it's a good balance, and we can work off each other to really put together a project that I think is going to be helpful to a lot of people. Well, one of the issues is it is a challenge to write with others because you've got to be able to be communicating and the feedback and having that one voice. But because Richard and I are brothers, because Mike is Richard's son, we have a good relationship, a good background, common experiences. We kind of know where we're coming from. That has really been helpful because we trust one another. We believe in each other's walk with God. And I think there's a great dimension of just the relationships we already have that does make it a little easier. And so it's been a lot of fun, and we got some work to do, but it's worth the effort. It's going to be, I think, a great product to have all that come together.